Hello, this is Tanya with Peddler's Den. Today we're going to be working with some of our Scenic Elements stencils. We're going to start by showing you the technique that we used to make these delicate looking winter scenes. To do that, we're going to be using our snow stencil and our Whimsical Clouds stencil with our semi-gloss cardstock. Now we're going to start by creating some snowbanks. To do that, I'm going to use a stipple brush. Now when I say stipple brushes, this is the style of brush I'm talking about. You've got the longer bristles. It's slightly curved on the end. It's not real blunt cut. The bristles are soft and pliable. You want to avoid the brushes that have really tight, packed, stiff bristles. They just really won't work. And not all bristles are the same. What I'm using today are brushes from Germany. They are a natural hair brush. They really are the best. But we also have some on our website that are much less expensive that also work very, very well. So we're going to start by building some snowbanks. Now, I'm going to use the stipple brush. There's a number of techniques you can use for this. And I'm going to be putting probably more ink on the plastic than I am on the paper. You want to avoid stabbing your paper. Hitting your paper hard doesn't put down more ink. All it does is wear out your brushes prematurely. So I'm going to gently tap across here. I'm going to pick up a little more ink. I'm going to gently tap across here. You can do a series of taps and swirls. If you don't like the grainy look of stenciling, because we're working on a coated cardstock, you can actually, once you get that wet, you can actually gently swirl and it'll smooth those out a little bit. So let's see, we want our snowbanks to be a little different angles. Down a little more here. And pick up a little more ink. And I think probably 3 layers of snow is going to be sufficient for this scene. Now I am using my Primrose Pink ink. This is one of Peddler's Den inks, part of our Making a Scene collection. I'm going to set that brush aside. I'm going to pick up my blue brush. Yes, I have a dedicated brush for each color. The brushes can be washed, but when I'm sitting working on a specific project, I try to have a dedicated brush for each color. Now, if you know anything about the color wheel, you know that when you combine red and blue, you get purple. So if you're combining pink and blue, it's going to give you a little bit of a lavender cast. I put my blue down and I'm going back and I'm adding a little more pink. And you can do that too. Okay, that's a pretty dramatic snowbank. You can make them more delicate with less ink if you prefer. But sometimes the camera washes my my work out. So when I'm filming, I tend to try to remind myself to put a little extra ink down so that the color's a little more dramatic. Okay, there's another one. So I'm just tapping very gently, not stabbing. And there we have some snowbanks. Now I pulled the blue up a little more here. The pink is up a little more here. As you feather that color out, you can kind of decide which shade you want feathered out there. You want to keep the ridges of your snow bright white though. I mean, that really does pop. Now we're going to transition to our Whimsical Clouds. We have multiple cloud stencils. This is our Whimsical Clouds. The blue that we're using today is Robin's Egg Blue. I don't think I mentioned that. And many times, especially with the clouds, I don't use all of the stencil. I want my cloud banks to have slightly different shapes. They really shouldn't actually meet up because, you know, if you're looking at clouds in the sky, that's just not the way they work. So even though this is our Whimsical Cloud pattern, not our Cloud Trio, which is actually more realistic, I still want it to be somewhat realistic. Yeah, let's see, let's maybe have a longer bank here. Now I don't want to fuss too much because basically what I'm trying to share with you today is the technique. You can bump this whichever way you want it to go, but right now we have some snowbanks and we have some clouds. And at this point, you know, you can add whichever main images you want. This is one scene that we did. This is another scene that we did. And each time that we do these, remember, this is original artwork. So each time we do these, we get a little different result. Now, this is supposed to be a winter scene, so we're going to be using only pine trees or bare branch trees, because of course in the winter you wouldn't have foliage with leaves on it. When you're creating a scene, you should remember that things in the foreground appear much larger than things that are far away. So we're going to do a foreground tree here, and it's going to be large. We ink it, and we press firmly. And you want to give the ink a little bit of time to migrate from the rubber to the paper. You want to make sure that you've pressed firmly, but not rocking, and not pushing so hard that you distort your image. There you have it. Now, one of the things that is so much fun about these trees is if you want small trees like this, or if you want small trees like this, they're just the top portion of the overall stamp. So what I did was I took a Post-it note and I traced my stencil and I cut it out so that I had a fast and easy mask here. And if I'm going to use this, I don't want to get ink down here, so I try to cover that up as well. So we're going to put in some smaller trees. So I'm going to ink this up. And I'm going to put one right here. Okay. Now I think it might be good to have some up here too. So we're going to move this up. And I'm going to ink this again. And let's see, how about like this? And let's see. Let's do one more that's a little bit smaller. Alrighty. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. That's simple enough. Now on this one, we have one tucked behind here that is gray, because not only are things that are closer to you larger, but they're also more distinct. So by making this one gray and smaller, it pushes it into the background. This one's also a little bit gray. So that's another technique that, that you can use to help enhance your perspective. Let's see. I like to put some life in my scenes. And of course, winter is kind of a dead season. But many times you do see deer out foraging around, even in the snow. So we're going to put some deer right here. Now, they're a big, bold image, and big, bold images are easy to smear. So you have to make sure that you have even pressure without rocking. And even though it's winter, you know, there are some birds that do winter over. So you will see some birds in the skies. So we're going to put a few birds in the sky. And to be honest with you, I think we've been working about 5 minutes, and this is a scene. You know, you can layer that on here if you want. You can put a greeting on it, and you know, we have a scene just that fast. Now, another one of the scenes that we do is this one. And I'm going to quickly show you this one as well, because this includes the Whimsical Clouds stencil, but it also includes our Geese stencil. Now, I have taken the liberty of pre-stamping this for you because it's big, it's bold. We normally use a platform on that, and it takes a while to dry. So we've already prepared this. We're going to go back and we're going to use our Whimsical Cloud stencil again. We're basically going to use the same technique we did on the other one. We're going to dust in some color. Remember, each one's a little bit different. Okay, you see those clouds kind of rolling up there? Now, I've been careful to avoid using the same exact pattern on top of each other. I don't know if you saw me. I put the stencil down and then I shifted it because I don't want to repeat. I don't want to stack those patterns. Your eye will see that and think that it just looks odd. Odd is not usually a good look. All right. We're almost done here. Now on this one, we actually put clouds in the water to show some reflection. So I'm going to flip this upside down. And we're going to do a little bit of the clouds in the water. Okay. Now we're going to go back. We're going to pick up our robin's egg blue. We're going to go back and we're going to match our stencil back up. And we're going to start putting the blue tone in. And of course, by layering the the robin's egg with the primrose pink. We are creating some lavender tones. But this is so fast, so easy, so relaxing. You know, it's hard to actually make a mistake. Now, you're going to like some scenes better than others. You're going to like some patterns better than others, but it's hard to actually make a mistake. See, I've got to line that up, got to find the pattern. And dust a little bit of blue in here. Okay, flip this around like we did before. Okay, that's good enough. Now, before we run out of time, I want to show you our Geese stencils. This is our Geese stencil, and to use them, we usually use our daubers. And it's best if you take some purple tape or something to kind of mask this so that you don't accidentally get ink where you don't want the ink. And at this point, you begin to fill in your geese. But one of the fun things about this has birds, bats, cats. One thing that's fun about this stencil is that you can actually lay it right over your scene and be sure of where you're putting this. Now, if you want to firm up the edges, if you don't want the edges of the geese to be a little bit ragged, you can put this back on later and trace around it with a black pen. So we're almost out of time. To finish this card up is very, very simple. We used one of the three of our cattails to do some framing here in the front. We have three patterns. I think the bold, if you don't have any of them already, the bold silhouette is the best choice, but all three of them will work. I actually used our still water to put in a few little lines here to accentuate the idea of water. And then many of our tree images can be used to frame out the top. This is our bare branch oak. This was used to put some branches in the upper corners to draw the viewer in. Other ones that are popular that work well for this technique are old tree silhouette and bold branches. So trees are very versatile in that respect. So I hope you've enjoyed your time with me today. I hope I've been able to show you how much fun scenic stamping stencils can be. I'm not sure I can get all three of these on here at once, but lots and lots of fun. Watch for kits on our website, and thank you for joining me. Goodbye now.